In this lesson, we'll talk about some tips for writing blog content and create our first blog post. One of the best ways to get more familiar with an editor is to actually use it to create content. So let's do just that and create our first real post for our blog. So one way to do that is to come up here and save the draft. It'll come here and change to edit post mode, and it'll give you this option to add a new post that way, or you can come over here in the sidebar and click to add a new post. So the first thing you want to do here is give your post a title. So the first post for our blog is going to be a post about weird Mexican food that the person who's writing this blog encountered in Mexico. So what can we call this new post for our blog? Well, one option would be to call it something like weird Mexican food. But as I'm looking at this, it's not very catchy, and maybe it's interesting, but I don't really feel compelled enough to read this article. So let's take a couple of seconds and talk about headings and how we can make them compelling for people to read our content. So let's play a little game called Which Would You Read? And we'll be comparing two different headings and see which one that you personally think you'd be more interested in reading. So the first one we have is My Favorite Cheap Recipes. Maybe we're writing about frugal recipes. Or would you rather read one called 10 Essential Recipes for the Frugal Chef? Well, if I had to take a guess, at least me personally, I would much rather read the one on the right. I think it sounds much more compelling or interesting to read. And not only that, it sets expectations. I know I'm going to find 10 different recipes rather than something that could be a novel on the left, or it might only be a couple things. So the next one is Awesome Web Frameworks. I'm a web person, so obviously this is one I would like. But would you rather read that or Why Angular JS Will Save Your Life? One sounds a lot more intriguing or compelling. It's more strongly worded than the one on the left. That could be about any web framework. We have no idea, although there are a lot of awesome ones out there. We don't know which one in particular it's about. So the next one we have is Weird Places in Paris, and it sounds kind of interesting. Or Get Weird in Paris, Top 5 Unusual Places. Well, if I had to guess, I would think a lot of people would probably rather read the right. It sounds a lot more interesting and intriguing than the more generic version on the left. So there's a reason some of these options on the right are more interesting than the ones on the left. So let's talk a bit about what goes into a heading to make it interesting for people to read. So the first tip is pretty obvious. You want to make your heading intriguing, because if it's not intriguing, people aren't going to want to read your content. So one of the easiest things you can do to determine this is ask yourself if you would feel compelled to read your article. If the answer is no, then you should probably rethink that heading and change it up a bit. And one of the easiest tips to do is to use numbers or question words in your heading. So for example, the cheap recipes example, when you change it to 10 essential recipes for the frugal chef, that number immediately sets an expectation and makes it more interesting, which if you read blog posts for a long time, you might get kind of sick of reading the number type posts, but it does work for people, so there is a reason that is done. And question words also accomplish a similar thing. So asking questions like who, what, why, how, or when, and the title will also bring in more viewers or attract more interest in your article. And another one is using adjectives. So for example, essential recipes, weird places, unusual, things like that make it much more compelling and interesting in your title. So one thing you want to make sure you do here is set expectations in the title. And not only that, follow through with it in your content. So if you're making a promise, if you're going to tell people the top 5 most unusual places in Paris, then make sure you list those 5 places and make sure they're unusual, they're interesting, and that you aren't just filling your article with a lot of fluff, because there is a lot of that out there, unfortunately, and people get sick of reading it. They want to read something real. So that's just a little bit. Let's go back to our headings here, and you can kind of see how I use this formula in my headings myself. You can see we have the generic version and then kind of the spiced up version. Our first one, we used a number here to quantify how many recipes we're going to share. So we have 10 essential recipes. We have that adjective there. For the frugal, also another adjective, chef. So we have our generic awesome frameworks, or why we use that question word, AngularJS will save your life. When we have weird places in Paris, or get weird in Paris, top 5 unusual places. So we have a number here and an adjective. So you can really see how you can start to apply this formula to your headings to make it more interesting. So I'm going to pull back up our post here, and let's change our weird Mexican food title to be something a bit more interesting. And what I came up with, I'm going to use 5 unusual delicacies of Mexico. I think that sounds much more interesting and intriguing than just weird food. So you can see how you can start to use this yourself to make these more intriguing and more likely to pull people in. And in our project files, I added the content for this blog post for you, so you don't have to type it as we go along. And that's just in our WordPress files. Let me pull this up for you. In our project files, in this 07 begin folder, we'll have this post content document. You can see mine says it's Word, but I saved it in RTF format, so you should be able to use it on whatever platform or system you're using. And inside of that, I just pasted the title, and underneath that, I have all the content. So I'm going to hit Control-C to copy this, and I'm going to paste it inside of this main area. And it's kind of doing some funky things here with copying, pasting that format. But in our next lesson, we're going to learn how to fix that formatting and to add additional formatting in our post.